we have time, committee members, for any discussion or comments amongst ourselves that you might want to have. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, yeah, so am I understanding correctly, we're gonna have a hearing at what time tonight?
5:30.
5:30.
Sir,
And
yes.
we haven't really, we're gonna hear from TS and all the other departments on Monday, correct?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
On Monday, you have special district budgets.
Okay, that's right. So I just,
We haven't seen.
because a lot of this is fresh in our minds, my question either to Krista or to Haley is, with the forecasting, if we do as the administrator's recommended budget currently sits, the forecast number that we need to work on in the next 13 months, as I heard, is a reduction of 7,000,003. Is that still a good number? 7.3 to maintain what we're doing, because I just did some, this is not accurate, so I just did some rough math that comes up quite a bit higher, to maintain at current levels with a, but what inflation level are we using? Is it 7%, 9%, 8%?
Oh, it's probably.
Yeah, I think so.
So
haven't
actually,
gaveled
it
this out.
depends on what factor you have. So like for personnel, we went from historically using 4.4% to, we've increased it to 5 in the off biennium PERS years and 9 in the PERS years. For a lot of, we've also gone to more trend data on the revenues versus previously they were always increasing at the CPI. But some of our, without additional information, we are still using CPI for a lot of our expense. What we did which needs more evaluation in the next year, but in this forecast, we did apply a 60-40 split to the projection of the operating subsidy transfers to departments of 60%. We assume 60% staffing and 40% materials and services. And again, I'm not sure, that's not going to hold true for all departments, but prior they were inflating the transfers by the CPI. And when a lot of those transfers fund personnel, that doesn't make sense. So the 60%, we used that 5.9 in the transfers this year, and then the CPI for just the 40% of those transfers. But again, I'm hoping that we'll get into much deeper forecasts and be able to forecast all of the, right now, you're looking at departments of just the general fund. And there are other departments, as you've heard, that are doing forecasting, but we don't know what basis. They're not being shared with you all. So getting into forecasting for all of the departments will be indicative so that we can have that comprehensive look.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
right. So to simplify it, does your gut tell you that what was handed out at the beginning of a couple weeks ago, the 7.3, does your gut tell you that number is high or low?
Conservative.
Well, when Krista and I looked at it long-term, we modeled even a 10 million cut, I think. And in the 5th year, you still went negative. That said, I did include these 7% vacancies in the versions you got in your most recent packet, because we do, even without a hiring freeze, we do experience vacancies. It's hard to budget vacancies, although we've been to trainings that say you should be budgeting vacancies or budgeting more accurately. It's just like we say, the general fund has experienced 7%, but it's not like the same department experiences that every year. So, I mean, Jennifer has a lot of experience in this stuff, so we'll be working over the next years to see how we can build those in. So I do think the full cost model is overstating it a little bit, because we will have some savings every year. People don't spend everything that they budget to, as you note in the carryovers and stuff. So, I mean, I think it's somewhere in between.
Well,
The 7
and that's
10.
looking at just cutting expenses, not are there ways to provide more income? Am I correct in that? It sounds like it's more focused on, the thought so far has, and even our thought in those last few days has been more on expenses. I've not heard a lot of brainstorming or ideas or think tanking or whatever about where there might be more income available and
So
how to utilize that.
It would be, that dollar gap could be filled with cuts or with revenue. So, yeah, at some level. And we have some ideas on revenue producing, but again, we need the next 13 months to do all these exercises and to have that think tank of the different departments and you all to come up with these. Because, I mean, especially on the revenue side, it generally takes some sort of legislative action or, I mean,
Right.
council action, commission action, or vote of the people. And those initiatives take a long time.
Right, it's not something you can just determine overnight, nor attack in a week or anything like that. That's why I like the
Quickly,
idea of the
there's some
13 months.
legislation in Salem that modifies the PERS, Public Employee Retirement Rate or system, quite significantly as far as a positive income to governments. And Krista she just did some research for Chris Lyons in Salem. But it also may mean that we may see a rash of retirements by December 31st for especially Tier 1 employees, which is both good and bad. It's good because that means we wouldn't have to reduce staffing because we'd have people voluntarily choosing to retire. And that'll be a
But-
discussion, do we fill that position immediately or not?
Yeah.
But their potential cost savings to governments are, Krista?
The cost savings, when I modeled this for the county, countywide, based on the current proposed legislation, which is likely to pass, it appears that beginning in biennium 21 through 23 would save the county approximately $20 million over that biennium. And in comparison, when we went through the process of preparing for this proposed budget, these numbers make sense because our increase for PERS for this biennium was over $10 million countywide. So you can kind of see that legislation would have a significant impact in our future forecast for it to pass and be completely upheld, assuming that there's no challenges in court with it being overturned on
would
any
be the-
basis.
Reserve that money.
It
just
could
in
be very
case.
helpful. However, on the
It's
flip
likely to
side,
be
if that
overturned.
doesn't come to pass, we are looking at very significant PERS increases each biennium.
Yeah,
Just one follow-up, Haley, on the discussion we just had, that 7 to 10 in coming years, that's without the hiring freeze, correct?
That's,
With the hiring freeze.
that does not, we haven't factored a dollar amount of the hiring freeze. It is without applying the vacancy
Okay, okay,
percentage, so it's the high end.
okay. And then it does not obviously include the equal pay impacts. So we
Right,
don't
so
know.
there's still equal pay, there's a lot of other impacts. I would say the rash of retirement would also include, although you may have vacancies after, you have the retirement payouts. And when we were having the discussion about full costing of these different departments, I'm not aware that any department's actually budgeting for retirement. Some may be, because they do make some adjustments to our personal adjustments, and we haven't gotten into the ability of understanding those yet. But those retirement payouts can be significant.
okay, and
And just to
Ms.
clarify, you're talking about, they haven't budgeted for the vacation payout.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Ms.
probably not.
Lee?
I mean, I want to say I ran a report, and last calendar year, CCSO paid over $350,000 in retirement payouts.
I know the PERS bill passed the Senate. I thought it was going to be on the House floor today, but I haven't heard if it passed. Have you guys?
I haven't seen anything yet.
Oh, okay.
Waiting to hear.
Thank you.
I think the sooner it does, the sooner we'll find out if there's going to be a challenge, right?
If it passes,
Well, it'd be
you
a
can bet there will
challenge.
be a
There will
challenge.
be a challenge.
So it'll be challenged right away, so it'll put the whole thing in jeopardy.
Right.
Yeah.
No question about
One
it.
way or the other, there'll be a challenge.
The unions definitely are going to challenge that.
Your card's still up. Did you want to say something again? Your card.
Nope, sorry.
Okay, got it.
Did you get your,
And Jan, you're good?
we're out of here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We will recess this until 5:30 this evening, where we'll take public testimony.